transparency. And so I think that sunlight that figure has demanded has been met. And I think we've all benefited as creditors as we've received substantially more insights into the financials and the ongoing operations there than I think we did in the first few months before Figure engaged. So, in that sense, I think that's been a real positive. Whether that comes to fruition in the form of a, listing on their exchange or any other more consummated relationship, I'm grateful for that engagement, for some of those that pressure that we placed as a community on the board and the executive team to try to get more information. And I don't think we'd be sitting in this position if we hadn't had that additional pressure.
Yeah, I agree on that because it's all about attention. It was also in the past when we went to chapter 11. The only things that really were pushed forward is what the community was focusing their attention on. So it's good that multiple people are talking about it right now, and that's why I think it's so important also to hear all these different voices. Because maybe there are very interesting points of view within the community, and some of them maybe will come with solutions that we didn't talked about yet. Um, but yeah, for me personally, I have always felt good with the idea of board members that came from the community itself with the proper credentials. So if we could talk about board members that are coming directly from the community, I think that would be great because I think they will push for the community because they are part of, yeah, it's still a problem that needs to be solved. And I think there is a possibility, because you have the amount of equipment, to make it a good business, and the only way to make it a good business is when it's run properly. And that's something that I'm not sure of at this moment because we don't have all the information. It's very difficult to calculate that. As Ron Paul said before, and I'm happy someone else can calculate this for me, but based on the information, we can only guess at this moment it's 1 minus 4 million up to 11 plus 11 million.
Yeah, I agree with Rob that Cagney, of course, did help shake things up. My only the reason that I'm not on Cagney's side is that these things can get really chaotic very soon. And I think I was speaking with someone before that once you achieve something, you gain a sort of reputation, right? So if you don't come with the best intentions, it from a grassroots movement, it's very difficult to go against that person. So imagine that Cagney actually managed to gather 25% of the creditors and completely do a wholesale takeover, clean the entire board, do put the people there, and the people, because they believe in him and because he achieved something, might vote uh, uh, might vote believing in him, but it doesn't mean that what he puts ultimately forward, or at some point he might not put forward the best solution, but because he achieved something, people will believe in that intrinsically. Some people, and I think this happens somewhat with Alex Mishinsky. You can see it was so difficult sometimes to have a discussion without people bringing it up, defending or attacking them. And I think that's sometimes the issue when you put too much focus on one particular person. Like I always call that people from Celsius have a savior complex. They want they want one guy to do everything right. And from the things that I see, that's at least from the players here, that's not entirely correct. And I brought that
Well,
issue with Global X Digital. I think that was shady, but go ahead, Rob.
I agree with you. I think that I have a bit of a unique perspective here. I was a member of the executive team for a private company, and we were acquired a few years ago by a public company. And to see the amount of effort that goes into maintaining a publicly traded company, the accounting scrutiny, the audits, the level of staff that we have to maintain is exponentially larger than what we had as a private company. And it's a tremendous drag on operations, and it's just outright expensive to do. And frankly, our company, Ionic, is in a world of hurt, right? We have a 4-person board. We're lacking a CEO. We now don't have a CFO, and we're in trouble. So we need the very best creditors to step forward and try to pull this out, because the liquidity that folks, including myself, are hoping to achieve through this company is very much at risk, and we're certainly not going to get the multiples that we'd like. Yes, we have Bitcoin in our treasury, ongoing operations, but I don't think we have enough cash flow to support the effort required to simply be publicly listed, let alone replenish our fleet and move forward. So we're really at a crossroads as far as the future of our company. And so again, I echo what you were saying, Ron, that ideally we have some really great creditors step forward. We can change the narrative. And I think that the Celsius story is well known on Wall Street. And as we go out and try to raise capital and tell our stories, the more that our stories are authentic and true to the creditor nature that we all occupy, that I think that will resonate, and we can tell a unique story that goes maybe a little beyond just the dollars and cents. Clearly, the dollars and cents are vital to our story, but there's a human aspect of this as well, and that human aspect is what brings us all together in this community.
The issue about liquidity, it's a weird one because the moment they say they are equity positive, or at least just by hearing John Paver, he made very clear that they were focused on being EBITDA positive on ROI. So that kind of makes it look that they might not be losing money.
Well, when I refer to liquidity, I envision that first day of trading and the run on the market that we're going to experience, um, and that's going to require a tremendous underwriting effort to make sure that there's enough money there for all the creditors that have just simply had it with what this is, and they just want to get out, and they want to get out before everybody else tries to get out. And that's going to be a real unique struggle for our company that will be really difficult to overcome. So yes, it has operational liquidity demands, but there's also capital liquidity demands that are going to be difficult to meet, especially in a limited market like Figure. So you have to be mindful of all of those things. Back to you.
Can I just touch on this run of the market? Because I keep hearing that over and over, where uh, once it's listed on whatever exchange, NASDAQ, etc., that people are just going to sell it to zero or down to pennies. There's a liquidation value of the company. You have just take their Bitcoin, forget about all their other assets, take their Bitcoin, multiply it by the price of Bitcoin, and you could just use that as the liquidation value. When it goes under that value, then there's everyone's going to be buying it because they just have Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin at a discount. Sure, it could trade at a discount to the liquidation value, but it's not going to go down to pennies. I mean, say it's at $5 a share. Well, it go to three, but at 3 or 2.50, you're buying Bitcoin at 50% on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. So this whole run down to zero, I just don't buy it.
And
I'm not saying that I agree. I don't think it'll run down to zero, but there will be a run. But you're right. I think it runs to a multiple on their book value of maybe zero point 0.8, and then the arbitrageurs will come back at it, right? A MicroStrategy might just buy this company for its Bitcoin hoard, for example. When they're trading at a 3 times NAV, go buy this company and get it at a zero point 0.8 to 1. That's a great value.
yeah,
Correct.
another aspect, I think people have to understand that if I understand correctly, you have to manually send the shares from Odyssey to the exchange. And this will create, it will be difficult for the company to go even to a very low value. And if you understand how market makers operate, this is like a band. It's like an elastic. So even if you have sell pressure, that that is being hedged against other forms of liquidities and derivatives. So there is always a value that will be very difficult to change. And the minute you have a slight amount of pressure to buy, those market makers will inverse their positions and it will climb up the share. So uh, and this thing is difficult to achieve in a secondary listing, like Cagni is saying. I don't know who they are thinking to make the market makers that are doing this, but once you start writing a bunch of options and derivatives, this can it's very unlikely that you will reach very low values from, in my opinion, from 1 week, considering that the liquidity that's going to be brought up, meaning shareholders that are willing to sell, is going to be staggered. So I don't buy this as well. And the reason I was asking for someone with a Series 6 or Series 7 is that they should have at least some knowledge about how market makers operate in the TradFi markets. Um,
But if we liquidated at the time of bankruptcy, Bitcoin was probably around 20,000, and those machines and the value of Ionic was probably almost zero. So now they have Bitcoin. Now I know there's the lack of liquidity; you can't sell; you're forced into it. But at least the value has gone up substantially with the price of Bitcoin. Correct, and that's Alex's fault for investing in all this Bitcoin mining equipment when he didn't have the money. And if we liquidated it, we would have got like pennies. So it's pennies, or at least what we have now.
and another aspect that I think you have to account is like the company had contracts with a bunch of companies. And I think that is lost once, and that does not, if you liquidate it or get another company to get these assets, those contracts do not transfer. So that means imagine that you made a forward payment to in terms of hosting fees. I think that will have been lost. And I think also the situation with Barber Lake, from what I understand, what I recall, I might be wrong, was that someone at the company, when they were lacking liquidity, decided to kind of sell their investment or their that site on Barber Lake. And the fact that you have Ionic Digital right now and you are in bankruptcy, that gives you like another round at those assets, from what I understand. Uh, I don't think if you vested this in, for example, in a bag to be liquidated, I don't think you could extract that value. And there are a bunch of things that I don't think people understand. So if the company was not getting any sort of, if they were just mining Bitcoin for their liquidity, from my calculations, they could not have on July 100 million plus, I think, 2,000 Bitcoin. If you do the calculations, it means that at least they were breaking even. And it's the public statements are that they managed to maintain the same liquidity throughout time. So if you will go through those comments, if you are indeed losing money, you will have lost the global liquidity position. Now, there might be some nuance to hear, but I think they made it pretty clear. So, do you agree with me that if the company was indeed losing money by July, end of July, their public their public statements could never be that they have more or less the same liquidity that they were vested with. But once you say this, I think didn't the company spend like 100 million just auditing everything from the mining company? So you are basically saying that all those millions, all the hundreds of people that check the company financials were wrong. You understand that you are taking a very you are disregarding everyone's professionalism, everyone's best interests, and you're saying that those people are criminals. And you're saying this in bankruptcy, in a court, with a judge, that if you do some of the things that you are saying, they will get arrested, right? That's the only issue. And what I'm basically saying is that I believe from my conversations with you that you don't have a full scope of all the value there. And the maximum way, maybe to even take all the value, was to mine, for example, for 6 months or something like that. So maybe mining for 12 months was not guaranteed to be a net positive, but maybe at bankruptcy for 6 months or to the numbers were widely for maintaining the company. And because we did the initial window was to list in 6 months, maybe something changed, okay? And but basically from the comments from the company, the fact that they are saying that they were mining at 24K, uh, basically you are again saying that everyone that's speaking publicly, and you have to understand, John Pfeffer, what he said, if it was wrong according to you, because basically saying that they have no prospects, and maybe this is why we have Ido exiting out and terminating the MSA. I don't know. Maybe that's it, but I don't have any guarantees. Maybe something changed. But from the previous comments until July, I think your position is not logical based on what I see it.
Yeah,
So basically,
probably less than if people could opt out, there would be a different percentage that could be right, and other people would make another investment decision, and we're thinking, well, maybe I see some future in these machines and the location, but the fact is still, because it's good that we have these conversations, and it's good that you pointed out. If we look forward, that's still what because I want to like to have access to the shares that is promised me, and the only way to get there right now, because of what is happening within the company, is what I understand at this moment, because of all the information that is provided to me, is that we have 2 to 3 new board members, and I really like to focus uh, on that more. Not that I don't like this conversation, but I like to point out to everyone who's listening. Let's talk a lot about this new board members, because the more that we focus as a community on this, the more pressure we give the people that are in charge right now to come up with a solution or open up the company for this and move forward, because otherwise I totally agree on what Dima's point is. He's trying to make in general, it is only costing us money, and as long as this all costs us money, it is less profits for us. So again, I will throw this bone again in the cage, as we say this here. How do we focus on this, and how do we move forward for this? Because I know, if people are interested in this position, that you can send Celsius fact numbers and DM. And maybe Celsius fact numbers, Ron, can you maybe elaborate what is the next step for you as soon as you have some people who want to join that board? How are we going to provide this information to the current company? What would be the next steps? What is the time preference maybe in this?
it's basically exactly what Tony did. You talk with the legal company, write in case, you schedule a meeting that you have a group of shareholders that have some concerns and they are putting um, a deal or a resolution forward, and if they are willing to consider, nothing is guaranteed. From my position, knowing all the facts, I think, and I think as Christian already said, it will be stupid not to onboard this. and I don't even know if this is actually part of the plan. I think both of us, I think a lot of people on the community were asking to have a chance to put some creditors on the board, and you have this opportunity right now. You have a bunch of people also criticizing the HUD deal. If you are criticizing this, the company actually did something good for you. Okay, cost them their CEO and the CFO. But if you're on Cadny's side, then the fact that they ended the HUD agreement and uh, kick Ido and the other guy, that's good. My issue is a matter of timing. And I'm not saying uh, there is a viable business here. From the numbers and the previous numbers reported, it appears to be that to me, and it even appears to do that it's even appreciated more compared to Bitcoin. But I'm going off some of the ranges here. It might be wrong, might be right, but we have more Bitcoin that we were initially vested for. Um, but that's my point. You get two creditors there in the company. If the company makes indeed more sense to liquidate it. I think that will be what the creditor board will decide, especially people that have shares, right? Rob here was saying that he probably, if there is an issue with draining liquidity, probably better to liquidate the company and get at least some of the liquidity back.
Yeah, and in that case, it needs to be rather done now and not in the bear market. If we go that direction, if that direction is wise to do.
And yeah, that's the opportunity that I see here. We have the seats available. You don't lose anything by approaching the board. There are conditions that make it very attractive to have a bunch of people that are not particularly looking for a salary, but are just making sure that everything is done right. And the company, even if they want to have a future enlisting, they need a stable board. They need people that are not going to back out or just keep asking for bigger salaries. And I see the opportunity here. Dima, you can reply to this Craig as well. Cryptosexual JC, if you want to join and put your 2 cents. West blog as well. Go ahead.
Dima, when you say they, can you? I want to make a request. Can you be a little bit more specific? You say they a lot, so who are you talking about?
So
Well, no,
some your
be even
favorite.
more specific than that. Just name names here. White and Case,
Well,
Chris
there's
Ferraro.
two.
Who are you talking about?
So
Look, just so we can, because there's people behind these entities that you're bringing up, right? I just want to know. There's obviously people, real people making decisions on these things. All these things you keep saying they're doing this, they're committing crimes and fraud, and without even disputing whether that's accurate or not. Let's get some names behind it. I'd like to know. Is it Pesh? You know, is it was it one of the UCC members? Was it
I
Ferraro? Yeah. Well, we were. I
on,
mean, we
only
were out.
50% of BTC and it was liquidated in order to have that 200 million. But we do have more Bitcoin right now, and net to net, it's not a significant percentage because we are exposed to the long side. The question here is if you think that the rigs will have made more money before than right now. That's false. I think that's false. The Bitcoin price was different back then. I think from my numbers, they probably are earning $5 when they have curtailment. So one thing is clear: they are being squeezed somewhere. But you can see even in the mining reports that I've been sharing, you can see they are slowly like 152 goes to 149, 147, 144. Now I think we are going to have a big number, but the question is if you are losing cash flow. But if you go for the rigs, which was not a significant percentage, you have the sites, okay? And if you have a site that potentially, so imagine that you have 100 megawatts or something like that. In emergence, the price was like 40K or something from Bitcoin. Right now, if you sold that site and someone wants to do an investment with new rigs, there is a potential cash flow that has appreciated significantly compared to before. So you can say that the site on the Bitcoin revenue might have increased. I'm not going to say proportional because you have the halving, but it has increased. And the curtailment revenue probably remains the same. So going look, if you go back at Cedarvale, the curtailment uh, price they've calculated, I think they gave the total build out of Cedarvale 130, 140 million in total value. I assume that includes the curtailment revenue on that portion of the calculation. But once you add the potential from Bitcoin appreciating or even other sorts of mining, or you add the potential of the expansion, and you have an account that I think there is a backlog in terms of inspection on the Texas grid, the sites is probably appreciated. I'm not going to say one with Bitcoin, but probably has appreciated significantly as well. Do you disagree with that, Dima?
Just to ask a question in between that, did I observe correctly that it is holding around 2,000 Bitcoin at this moment on the balance sheet?
We have, I think, 2,100 something, and
Okay.
we'll probably will have 2,200 by December, maybe a little bit more. And I'm assuming the movements out of their main wallets were sales. And now you have to understand this. They are in their latest press release. It seems they are already upgrading parts of their fleet. And if they announce an expansion for a new site, I'm not sure if they are going to do this or not. But if they announce an investment and they say they are not going to sell Bitcoin, then you will know that they are making money because they only sold like 70 million, 20 million in Bitcoin. And for them to, for example, have a 100 million new site or something like that, it means that they have to bring that liquidity. If they decide to sell Bitcoin, that's a bad signal. Okay.
Hey,
Hey,
Ron
Dima,
Paul, go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
I just had a question for Dima. If you're the head of Ionic, what would you do? Where do you see this company going?
You should have that soon, right? With the audit. I expect early January.
Yeah. So on that audit, let's jump on. That was my question. On the audit, I mean, the audit is due in just a few short months or less. Isn't the audit one of the things that is holding us up from our listing? And on top of that, what's the time frame for getting listed? What do you think, Ron Paul? Rob?
You have the issue with the CFO right now and the CEO. It will be very unwise to list without those two positions. I don't think you can go public without a CFO and without a CEO. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. So the fact that you had Denver leave uh, basically slow down a little bit. But you can do this parallel, right? So now the company has to have a CFO and a CEO. He has the auditor, but lost those two people. So you basically made a decision that uh, probably save 1.2 million per month, but probably slow the listing process. And that's one of the reasons that I don't understand. Why would they risk it right now in a position that I don't think it's very solid? But yeah.
Well, it's safe to assume by the end of Q1, you're going to have your audit, you're going to have a CFO and a CEO in place. You're going to have all the
Yeah.
elements that you're going to need by the end of Q1. So we're talking 90 to 100 days, we're going to have what we need in place to get the listing. So, there's people out there that are trying to convince others that you're looking at 24 months before you get listed on a NASDAQ. And that's why you should go some other route. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
I only think we should follow the Nasdaq for you, and the Nasdaq or a merge with a company. I think that's the only viable aspects.
Right, because
Um,
one of the biggest gripes that I see repeatedly on Twitter and X is people want, like Dima even said, we were forced into a situation, or forced to be owners of a mining company, and people are saying we want liquidity, we want out, we want the right to be out. So now we've got two paths, a Nasdaq listing or a merger, which by all accounts seem to be right around the corner. And that is going to be the fastest path to liquidity. And I think not just liquidity, but liquidity on the Nasdaq, which is a lot. There's a lot that comes with being on the Nasdaq versus some unknown, highly risky, uh, exchange, which is what I see Figure as, frankly, because it's untested. It doesn't have the name and brand recognition as being listed on the Nasdaq. It's not going to
you,
draw in additional investors like being on the Nasdaq would.
you could, in theory, also merge with Cagney, with Figure, because they are also filing to publicly list. I don't know why it's confidential. Uh, and I'm going to also add something because, and that goes to your crypto section, because Cagney was asking people to join him, blah, 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 but he only talks about the money he raised, not about financials. He says he's profitable, but we never know, okay? And unless there is public
Oh,
filing,
yeah,
we cannot.
we have no audit we have nothing but trust me, bro, from Cagney, frankly. We have no audit, we have no public filings, we have nothing other than he says that it's widely reported, his words, it's widely reported that his company is profitable. So I'm supposed to go Google it, and that's good enough for Cagney. So I'm not trusting anybody unless I have an audit. I'm not merging with anybody. I don't, even if it's HUD 8. If HUD 8 doesn't come in here with a solid audit from a reputable auditor, I'm not going to throw in with them
Yeah,
because,
tech has to be audited because they are publicly listed, so
yeah,
they
that's
are
what I
in
mean.
front of us on that aspect.
Right. And let me ask you this. I was quiet earlier, so I was driving, so I couldn't speak. So I have a lot of questions. Do we have a board observer now? Do we still have board observers? Is that
As
Joe
far as I
or
know, both have been kicked out.
they've
Like
been kicked out?
they are still board observers, but they are not being called to the meetings. And but you have to understand one thing: board observers, as far as I understand, they are just there to see everything is going legally, but they are not meant to even publicly state anything. And I think if there is an issue, they are meant to report to the CC and other legal entities. They are not meant to go publicly the statements. And I see Joe tweeting and say that it's his personal opinion, but that's not how it works. In my perspective, as far as I know, you can even comment about the company or what you think personally. And maybe Bradbury, I think he did initially the right thing. I think he kind of sacrificed himself. And in retrospective, I think that was probably the right thing. But I think actually that was what moved more. I don't think Cagney actually was the main mover. I think was Red Perry and the filings in court, and of course Cagney also helped squeeze a little bit. But I think the initial push was that, and you have to understand also that the company I don't think had a public relations department back then. I think they probably signed one like 4 months ago, And as Christian said, there is a lot of things and bureaucracies that you have to fill. The amount of work is it's very big. Um, but yeah, I think, and I'm not going to attack Bradbury, but some people told me that he didn't have the full scope of the financials of the company, and he also didn't have he didn't participate in all meetings, and I'm not sure if this was true. It was said by me that he might not have the full scope of the thing. So probably, in retrospective, if that was true, it would have been important for him to say that he might not have the full context of the financials of the company, because the moment that he said those things, it might look like the company was burning cash. Now, this I'm not sure. He probably can not even defend himself from this, but this is what was said to me. So even the board observers might not have a full scope of what's going on, and definitely don't have one right now. But you can assume a lot of things based on what is happening as well. And there is no much room. There isn't too much room to. I don't think this is a good thing. The fact that the CEO, the CFO leaves, uh, but at the same time, I'm going, and I think the company changed course. Okay, Ido was the guy basically that drafted the hub measurement agreement, as far as I know, and I think Crypto also said this, and he went over that deal and knows pretty much everything about it. And I think he was the initial guy that, together with Hut, saw this asset light viewpoint. And by kicking Idol, kicking the other guy, and now terminating this deal, in my view, it basically terminates the the concept that was sold to creditors. That's my understanding. And Hut 8, Asher did like and my comment, which I said is, which I think everyone can probably understand. There was a change from the execution team and the board. And the execution team seems to believe in Hut 8 deal and the concept. And the minute they terminated that deal, basically the board and the current executive team decided to walk away. I'm not sure if anyone wants to comment on this. Do you think it's a fair assessment?
What I think is interesting from the last few minutes is, because people like to have perspective, is that we have an understanding that in the next few months we will learn more of the outcome of the company, the course that the company is willing to go. And beside that, we still can go for additional board members to push forward. That is very important. And Rob Christiansen has already come forward from the position, I'm a creditor. I'm interested in doing that. I think I'm able to do that, to fulfill one of those positions. And I'm like, okay, let's bring that forward. Let them know. Let them know there is someone. Let them make their assumptions about that. Let's keep the conversation going in that case. But for everyone else who is not in that position of doing something specifically for this, I think we just need to wait for a few months, but keep the conversation open also on social media, because that brings pressure on the board. It's open. It's very important to keep things that we speak about these things in general. And I just had also something that popped in my. James, where are you focused on these last few months? Uh, you were very vocal in the beginning. Followed you, still following you. Uh, I went silent a little bit. I put my Twitter account on private just because I wanted to do that. But where are you focused on it in these days? Just a personal question. If you don't want to answer, it's just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, we've all gone through different levels of participation through the last 2.5 years, right? And you can only keep up the level of intensity for so long where before you need breaks, right? We all have other things that we have to prioritize in life. But a lot of these things, frankly, for me, are largely out of our control, and they have been for a while. So where we can influence things, then I try to comment on and contribute and participate. But a lot of these things just have a life of their own, right? Meaning the people on the board and stuff are going to do what they want. Um, and our ability to steer the ship has just been dwindled down to very minimal inputs at this point. So I just don't feel like it's for me. It's when is the most productive use of time spending, um, 2 hours every day like I was before, or 3 or 4, frankly, um, researching, commenting, holding spaces, trying to move the ball forward when you just had so many people that were, obviously there are people out there like Simon Dixon who have their own interests, which are very, in my opinion, very selfish in nature. But he's got a big microphone, so um, you know, I'm not going to invest a large part of my day battling something that feels like an uphill battle, or something that feels like it's not providing returns to the community, right? So when it's time to start making, if we get to vote on something, if we get to actually have an actionable item, then I'm all for stepping in and doing something. But I don't want to say it's hopeless, but I will say that our ability to affect change has been greatly reduced as time has gone on, right? We don't, I mean, when was the last time we got to do anything other than vote on the plan, which was, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago, or whatever the hell it was. I lose track, but
Yeah,
I
touch
do,
wood.
I do agree that we need to do whatever we can to install competent and experienced board members. I know Rob. I've known Rob for more than a couple of years. I know Rob has the pedigree from an executive perspective on his resume that would qualify him for a board position. I respect Rob, and he's always provided good inputs and solid, trustworthy advice and opinions. I can't say that about everybody in the community, so there are certain individuals that I wouldn't support. But I think that the focus now should be on trying to install trustworthy board members that are going to steer the direction of the company in the interest of the entire community and not be biased in their own favor. And that's what I think you get with, a Simon Dixon and frankly, even a Mike Cagney, because, Mike is a CEO to his own company first, and so is Simon, and they're going to always put those interests, I think, above the community. And I want, either bring in somebody that's completely outside and put in, install them in such a way that they're really only going to benefit financially if the company, Ionic, does well, and not just give them a paycheck and that's not dependent on performance. I think that is the biggest mistake we could make, is to put somebody on a payroll and it's not performance based compensation. And you're going to have somebody who can sit there forever and just bleed it dry, just like Ferrero is now. I think there's a lot of things we disagree on in this community, but we also agree on a lot too, which is, I think everyone agrees that Chris Ferraro is basically just sitting back collecting checks, doing nothing. And there's a lot of people that have put themselves in a position to do that here over the last 2 years. And we got to put an end to that, right? It should be performance based compensation, period. And if that person doesn't have a record of being trustworthy, don't take a chance on them, right? No more speeches, no more PowerPoints, no more, you can trust me, bro. Let's get people in there that have a track record of showing the community or showing the business world that they can be trustworthy. They have a auditable, tangible track record that you can lay your fingers on and say, this person is a good guy or good gal, right? Not just, you know, because Simon says, because I think we're all over that.
Yeah, I'm just going to go over some questions here with think GA Mac asked if we have the fourth building open. I think we have. The third is, and the fourth supposedly was coming before 17, but I will keep checking the numbers. But basically, as far as I know, looking at the blockchain, we are up 25% in terms of mining Bitcoin. So if you take the week of November and you look at this first week of December, we are up 25% in terms of Bitcoin mining. And we basically already recouped the sale that we made in terms of Bitcoin. Now the question is, of course, the liquidity. But if you also check the last press release about the company dropping its CEO, CFO, and CEO, and the termination of HUT 8 agreement, I think they said they are already upgraded or upgrading some of their rigs. So I think that's positive. Now the question is all about ROI here, and depreciation now starts to play a role. So the company will probably say how much they invested, and you will have to write down that, know where it went, and now you will see if you're going to do a return on investment, and you'll start to calculate the depreciation. I think also Grizzly said that they filed the wrong thing. According to the Celsius on comments, they, I think 3 months ago or 4 months ago, made that mistake, but I think they corrected. And they are working together with NASDAQ and the Security Exchange Commission that probably guarantees that they are doing the right thing in terms of listing properly right now. And yeah, anything else, Rob, Christian, Dima, go ahead. By
Well,
the way,
I
let's
just want to
inject that.
jump in there.
Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate Jamers what you said, and appreciate our friendship that does go back a few years. And I think back to an earlier point you made around the first quarter and a CFO CEO. Um, Knowing what I know of executive recruiting, it's really a reputational game. And you're thinking about your resume, you're thinking about your network. That CEO and CFO, we're buying their experience, but we'll also be buying their network and their connections and the type of talent that we're going to need and to take this company forward. I think it's going to be reluctant to come on board until an audit is at least privately available or in its initial draft, something that could be shared with somebody if they're willing to do that. But I would think that it'll be difficult to bring on the type of talent we need without a more complete audit to address some of the reputational risk that those really talented people could bring. So I'm concerned about that. And sort of just to bring it back home, I referred friends and family to Celsius. I know many of the people on this call likely did. Again, this is an open call to, even if they're not on the call here today, if you have people that you think would be great candidates for the board, we're all just trying to put the best people forward. And the more candidates, the better depth of talent we have, the better off we'll all be. So look deep, even if there's somebody who's not on the call today, have a conversation. I think there's an opening here where as we go into the holidays, TradFi goes relatively quiet. And then it'll pick up again into January. So we probably have just a few weeks to really put some names out there and maybe start some conversations. So again, that's the clarion call today is let's get candidates. Let's try to fill these holes and let's make the most of what we've got going here.
Yeah, well said, Christian. That is the whole case here. That's the whole case. And also, in addition to the line of Jamers, is we need to try to run this company with common sense, and sometimes that common sense is lost in my opinion. So we need to try to gain control. And the good thing is that we are all shareholders, so we all hold a power to vote in this or put some pressure on this. So I really would like to emphasize that multiple times. Uh, let's work on that, and let's think about that. So I don't know what about you, Ron. I have the feeling that we went full circle. I don't know if there are more questions, but
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it.
If anyone wants to come up, you are free to make any question, any doubts, even about Celsius. Especially, I think we kind of did a go around with Ionic Digital. By the way, these spaces are being recorded, not natively. If you don't want to appear on the recording, just say before you do a question, and I will edit you out. But everyone here is it has the best intentions, as far as I know. I know Dima fought in court with me. I fought there. We all intervene. We all put our face and reputation there. Jamers as well. I think there are a lot of good people in the community that are trying the best they can, and I think knowing some of the creditors and their backgrounds, I think we have very good candidates for us to put forward without Cagney, without necessarily ties to other companies, just coming from a creditor. And I don't. I advise people for do not do not be afraid to tie your name to Celsius Network. And for example, one of the reasons that I was in Celsius was because they had their HQ on the United States. Because I knew if they did something illegally, they were going to pay them criminally, and that ended up happening. And I also know that it would protect you in case of bankruptcy. Now, the issue here is that a lot of people had more exposure and were shouldn't be here. And but if you were well informed and if you did everything correctly, Celsius was still a viable company to consider putting your money in. And it's just in a one-to-one comparison. Of course, there were red flags. The issue is how much you diversify and protect yourself. And if we have something with Tether, we probably will be walking towards a very good recovery. And that will be only thanks to the fact that we are set on the United States and are under bankruptcy law. But also, do not, I want to be very careful for people, do not be very hopeful in this because lawyers put usually big claims in the bankruptcy the first time. And the minute there is discovery, they change everything. But again, open space. If you want to speak, make yourself heard. If you have a question, go ahead. I think you can also put it in the comments. Um,
Ron Paul, I'd like to jump in and just
Go ahead.
say a couple things. One, thank you for all the work that you've done and continue to do. 2.5 years now, really, and even though there's, we can always go back over. I mean, we're talking 2.5 years here that we've been a community working together, or even against each other in some cases. But 2.5 years you've been working on this, and even though we, when I say we, I mean all of us involved, don't always agree, we're still working together, and you're still making a contribution selflessly, asking for nothing in return. I've never asked for one thing from the community, not anything. Uh, and I think the people who are that are continually providing information to the community for selfless purposes should be praised. And I can tell you, you've been viciously attacked by Tony V and a lot of people that are in that, that hang in that circle with Tony V and Simon Dixon, and I think it's completely unwarranted. So for all those who want to continue to attack Celsius Facts and Ron Paul for just trying to make a selfless contribution of sharing information, going through dozens and dozens of Stretto documents, reading and reporting and summarizing and providing real information. I think it's despicable and deplorable, the folks that would attack him on a personal level. And I really wish that more people would stand up and denounce that type of behavior. Um, I do. I come to your defense and others' defense, uh, and I attack back, right? An eye for an eye. But I wish it didn't have to come to that. I wish that Tony V and Cagney and Dixon could make credible arguments without having to attack people. And really, that's
I
the
agree
most.
with you. I agree with you. But I also want to say that a lot of people have thanked me, okay? And I do not have issues. I've proven myself to me and proven myself to others. And I could have chosen just to walk away, but like, I just, I was since April trying to guide one person to get their recovery, and then they just receive it. And I did a lot of, I help a lot, but imagine since April that you didn't receive your distribution. And you have no idea how many people have asked me questions and I pursue and people have thanked me. So even if you see publicly two persons attacking me, I do not, it doesn't even touch myself. Of course, if someone adds to the comments, because I'm not going to always defend myself, it does help to put something in context. But even, and I'm not completely against Simon Dixon. Simon Dixon, he was grifting towards his company. He, at some point, was doing X, then he changed to Y. He adapted. I don't think, I think he, in the space that I ran before, he helped me put a lot of my thoughts out. And I'm not going to say that I'm the best speaker, but the discussion that I ran before with Rob, even if it was done like very fast, no organization, just put two because there were some important events that were happening. That space generated a lot of important positions from some people, and I think at the end of the day, help people figure things out. And yeah, and I think coming to you, I think that was very funny. One of the aspects that I was sniffing something with Global X Digital, and Tony was playing with it's not Global X Digital, it's GXD. But at the end of the day, what did you figure out? Oh yeah, the company is leaving their sites. They have not fully. They have a data center that is half empty or something like that, and those industries were being hidden by people. Okay, and I found it very interesting that Cagney starts the moment I sniffed that and post about that. He starts with personal attacks. Now, that for me was something that actually proved my point that was something there. And thanks to Aaron Bennett and I guess even Global X Digital for actually stating their interests and putting their words. If you're not careful, you probably missed that, but I was waiting for those words. Um, but Crypto Social, we have a lot of history. We broke up, then we made up, but at the end of the day, blood unifies us, and I will keep that always in mind. Westlock, I know you as well. Go ahead, make your point, your questions, your doubts.
Oh yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say that I probably don't have as much background in research of a lot of you because I kind of, I said earlier, didn't feel like I had the agency to make change. So I really just followed along, without digging in too deeply. But at the same time, if there is an opportunity to serve and be supportive of the community in a way that I can make change in the future, I'm happy to do that. So that's just why, if you have a way for me to provide more information about who I am, to be a candidate for a board seat, I'd be happy to share more about me so that in the community could know, who I am and determine themselves whether or not, I'm a trustworthy, moderate person who would want to really make sure that we're all getting the most from our sort of involuntary support of this company because that's all we want.
I agree. I already trade some be honest with you. Uh, you might not have exactly what I'm looking for, but you have other stuff that adds some value. And my what I'm trying to work out just put a bunch of candidates, and the company choose themselves. So if they think that you provide an excellent value, and if you are just willing to do what is right, and especially taking into consideration maybe issues in liquidity, and take some equity now and get the minimum cash, which I think is the plan was 75K yearly. And I think basically is just because you see you'll have a few board meetings. Ideally, you want to try to run the numbers just to make sure everything is correct, because as you know, executives sometimes misrepresent, and you end up in a bankruptcy court, and the board did not pick up that early. But especially now with that perspective, I think everyone here with some of their experience can be a good viable position. But yeah, well, thanks for those comments. I will definitely
Yeah, thank you.
put it forward.
Paul, let me ask you this. There's one of the strategies that's been employed by Figure and that crowd has been to attack the current board. Are there any board members on out of the four that are on there right now? Are there any that you feel are not qualified to be on the board?
Definitely the two that come from TradFi, Elizabeth Bulma and the other guy that I have to check the name. They are good people, and you have to understand one thing. One thing is the board, and one thing is the executive team. In the board, you not necessarily have to have a mining background. It helps, but you are there to protect shareholders from the executive. You are meant to sniff out issues in their projections and maybe other stuff that they are doing behind closed doors. Um, as far as I know, everyone from TradFi there makes sense to be there, and they are obviously sticking around, which at this point is a very valuable asset. Um, we cannot have more people leaving out the company from the board. I think we also have an internal team that I think might be the same one from bankruptcy. I don't know, but I know we have an internal team that is managing the company, the mining rigs, and from the press releases, everyone is they have everyone supposedly to do it right. But Scott Duffy and Thomas Di Fiore, I think they are people from crypto. I think Thomas Di Fiore probably had some management experience, but as far as I know, they are doing okay, the best they can. The question here is, by having two creditors that go in with a new perspective, it will reinforce the good decision. That's my point. Uh, Two shareholders with some background should be able to make sure everything is done correctly, and even for everyone. So imagine that you are a shareholder. If you see two people that are creditors externally enter the company to be part of the board, and the company is open to that, I think that will put everyone a little bit at ease, right? Because okay, now we have some people that we are certain are going to do what is right, even if it ultimately means liquidation or a marriage or a kidney deal. As long as I do a small interview with them just to make sure they understand all the scopes and how deals can be done and what people have to gain, because I think I'm well aware of that. Uh, I think I think that will be very good for us. Otis is joining here. But did you understand everything, Chris? Cryptosexual? Is there anything
I
else?
did. I mean, I wanted to hear what you thought first, but I'll add my 2 cents. I mean, Scott and Thomas, again, it's a probably with everybody, it's been a love-hate relationship with the UCC over the years, right? We haven't agreed with a lot of things that they've done, but at the end of the day, they have um, 2.5 years, virtually 2.5 years now, almost of experience from the inside, right? They've learned, they know the history. There's a lot to be said for that. Are they doing everything perfect? I don't know because we don't have all the insight, the inside information that we would like. But no one can argue that they're not extremely experienced and have the history there that is valuable and it means something. I don't want to bring in a bunch of outsiders and have an all us outsider board who doesn't know what we've been through and doesn't understand what we've gone through, right? And because part of where we need to go is based on where we've been and understanding what the creditors, what the community, the shareholders now want and what they need. Uh, but I do find it a little, I'm going to say a little hypocritical. A lot of people that have been criticizing the board and specifically, the previous UCC members were all in support of these same individuals when they were doing everything that they wanted them to do, right? When they were agreeing with them and making all the decisions that they felt aligned with their interests, they were supported. But as soon as they're not, then they are saying these people are not qualified, and that's the argument. They're saying they're not qualified to even be on the board, which I think is unfair because the argument was always that we get at least 2 members from the community minimum because they represent the community and should be members of the board. Not the argument wasn't we need to find 2 people that have this credentials that absolutely qualify them to be on a board of this size, and that means somebody like you and I, the little guy, so to speak, who's just a shareholder or a previous Celsius creditor, doesn't have a say, right? If you just turn it over to all the industry professionals who are, um, I guess whatever you'd call it, like the type of board members who they're professional board members, right? They'll serve on 2 or 3 boards at a time. They just kind of do their tours on different boards. They don't really have anything invested emotionally in the board. They're just there to get paid and fill a seat. So I find it disingenuous, the attacks on the board recently, because we don't have all the information. And some of these same people, most of them, in fact, were supporting these board members, these UCC members previously, but only now, when they're not doing what they want them to do, they attack them. And I think I'm tired of seeing our assets being attacked. It's been 2.5 years of attacks on our company. This is our company now. Ionic Digital is our company. You should be proud of it. You should support it. You should move it forward. And that means helping the people that are up there making decisions, helping them be better executives, better board members, not constantly trying to tear them down. Right? If you need
Yeah,
improvement, make suggestions, put them forth.
yeah, and one of the issues before I pass to Otis, uh, there isn't many things that they could have changed. Okay, from the management operational standpoint, there isn't much that you can do with the company. Like, in my view, they did everything right from a management point. They did the long, which completely pay off on Bitcoin. They set up, so there were some things that we just found out before that basically Matt and a bunch of people and Hat gave a bunch of miners to plug right in a bunch of containers to put on Cedarvale, and they plug all the rigs, and they still managed to mine on Cedarvale before the halving. So, from what I understand, they managed to that push to put some containers, uh, put all the rigs there. I think it was like 50 megawatts in total. They managed to do something that was pretty great. And I didn't know about this, but the fact that they managed to still push some money in Cedar Valley without having the buildings finished, I think is something to be proud of. The bit long also passed, and the time which they decided to potentially upgrade when they moved that BTC was also more or less the same path, the same timing perspective. So there isn't much you can do besides this. You can have more transparency, and that there might be reasons that make sense, others that make no sense. I'm not qualified and have the inside information to say precisely yes or no. But from a management and operational standpoint, they couldn't do more than what they have given to, as far as I understand. Maybe you could like upgrade a little bit early, but then you will have missed the Bitcoin reaching 100K. But yeah, Otis, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know too much about this, but I did reach out to someone, after hearing, what's going on. First off, I don't see why we would, after all of this trust, another outsider coming in, saying, I have your best interest at heart, just trust me, bro. No. But I did reach out to someone, and I'm going to read, what they said. Someone that I respect very much, respect his opinion, and he's in the mining. He understands mining very, very, very well. A lot of you guys know him, but I'm just not going to reveal his name, but I'm going to read to you what he said to me. Quote: Mike Cagney just wants to list it on his platform so that then the equity will drop to like nothing because there's not going to be any liquidity there, and then he'll have his big boys come in to buy up the whole company for maybe 100 million. So people don't understand. Like, yeah, you'll have liquidity, but at the right price. So you get liquidity now, yeah, but you'll get fucking 2 cents on a dollar. That's what these people are trying to pitch. So yeah, it's real stupid. The best route still is put a good CEO in place now and get on the Nasdaq in the first or second quarter of next year. That's still your best plan because at least you'll have a real market. Tokenized stuff with no liquidity is not a place you want to be. End quote. That's exactly what he told me, what I just read. And it makes perfect sense. Why would you want to be somewhere where tokenized token with no liquidity? Give these people a chance, and hopefully by the first or second quarter of next year, they can get it listed on the Nasdaq.
100% correct.
And
By the
that's from
way,
a person that I respect very much and knows the mining space. And I agree with him, even without checking into my Cagney of this and that. But I didn't even need to do that because why would my Cagney want to help creditors? More like you want to steal from creditors. With all due respect.
Yeah,
um,
don't forget he was touting what they bought off, the distressed assets he bought off of FTX. He was touting that up, holding it up as an example. Now, was that a smart business decision for him to come in and snap up distressed assets from FTX? Sure, but that's his game, right? That's the world that he lives in. Come in and pick up distressed assets, and I'm tired of
Like
us
Papa
selling off
Brazil.
our. Yeah, I'm tired of
Yeah.
people being scared out of their assets around here, right? They come in and tell you it ain't worth anything. Now they're telling you it ain't even worth $20 a share when it's probably worth 40 or 50. I mean, you this is the strategy, right? Tell you to devalue the assets so that somebody else can come in and get it cheaper, and that's been a game they've been playing on us for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, Cagney owns 0 shares of Ionic. He's not a creditor, so he's doing all this in his own self-interest.
by the way, Otis, you don't have the context that I was talking about the board, right? Because Rob,
No, I just saw someone just sent me a
okay.
link to the spaces, and being that I spoke to the person, a couple days ago, and I said, you know what, let me just come up and just say this, of what's going on. But the best news that I saw that came out this week is the amended complaint with respect to that Teva lawsuit. where what they did is just unconscionable, saying that they liquidated 39,000 and change Bitcoin when they didn't. They just held on to it, and that's not what the contract calls for. And then they just shuffle it to Bitfinex. I mean, these people. I mean, talk about evil. But anyway, but yeah, that's what I. Someone just sent me a link, and I just figured I'll come up and share that with everyone.
Rob Jasmine, can you go over the reason that the issues that the CFO and the CEO leaving put on the prospects of listing and even possibilities of contract new people? Are you capable of doing a small summary here for Otis, or you think that we should move on?
Well, in general, what we spoke about is that there are 2 to 3 board seats open, and if we want to move forward with this company, that it is important that you get board members from within from the creditors, in my opinion, because they have the correct motive. And I think it's good to know that we have people who are willing to do that. And I think
Put
it's
Rob on
important.
it. Rob Christensen. Put Rob on the board. Rob, can you please go on the board?
But basically, we have already two people that just on a quick glance have what it takes from a board seat position. Rob Christian here, Westlog also seems. Craig,
I'll pass, and plus I'm
Craig
not
is saying that
qualified.
he's not interested.
But I would definitely endorse Rob Christensen to go on the board.
But here my point is this, and there have been two red flags with Ionic Digital. One was the fact that they were not filing on June 20, and that provoked a whole bunch of issues. And now the other one is the fact that they terminated the hot contract, and by terminating that hot contract, the CFO and this current CEO left, and you cannot list, as far as I know, without a CFO and without the CEO. And it will be crazy not to list without those two. And the fact that you had so many people leave the board and leave the company, and that makes it very difficult to attract real talent, right? Because as Christian said before, if you a CEO comes here to gain reputation, right? He's not going to join a company that is going through a bunch of doesn't have a defined role between the board and the executive team. If you have a clash, it's not normal to have a clash. Ideally, you want both sides to be aligned together. But what the fact that the CFO and the CEO left, it means that there was a clash between executives and between the board. And the fact that the chief financial officer left after 6 months and he put his face there defending uh, the business plan. I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but he put himself. And the fact that he left, being supposedly the guy that's looking about the finances, uh, if this was a purely motivated push because of better financial conditions, it wouldn't have made sense for him to leave because he's the financial officer. So this is a red flag to me. I think we have 3 sheets available. I've been telling people that at least 2 more sheets should be people with real blood into this company because I'm sure people will put uh, the shareholders' interest before, and they are not looking for a paycheck. They will do what's it's right. If it means liquidation, if it means listing on Nasdaq, if it means a merge with HUT, they will do the right thing. And the people that I personally know will do this. And if you know someone that might have the background, has previously been on a board, took an executive seat, knows more or less how a public company works, knows exactly where I'm coming from, where Rob Christian was coming from, just send me a DM. Rob, Do you want to do a small roundabout to see if anyone wants to add something? And this is also a last call if you want to make a question or your point of view here on the space. Go ahead. You are open to everyone. If you don't want to be recorded, say that you don't want to be recorded because I will edit your comments. And Rob, manage the room.
Yeah, I will just give the time to Greg. I see his hand is up. I don't really have something in addition.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Scott and Tom being board members where they're catching a ton of heat. I mean, I don't know how they're doing running the company, but I knew they were both large creditors, and so that in turns means they're large shareholders in Ionic. So at least both of our views are in line. So if Ionic Digital does well, everyone does well. And these people that come in that are not shareholders, I don't think our visions are in line. So um, hopefully they do the right thing. Well, I guess we'll find out.
I
Yeah,
agree with that, Craig. I think that's why it's the compensation package needs to always align with incentives and performance and not be uh, just stale in the sense that they can come in and not perform and still get paid because you don't want a bunch of leeches, which is what most boards have. I'm in a number of investments that have. I'm constantly hearing about board members that are just contributing nothing, and they're constantly selling their shares because they're cashing out. And they're just using it as a source of income, and they're not contributing anything. I mean, maybe they're just like professional board members, right? They work the circuit, and they build up a resume, and then they put it on Robert Half, executive recruiting agency, and they get hired based on a resume. But did they really contribute anything meaningful? Right? We deserve we deserve we are owed board members that are going to make a meaningful contribution and have skin in the game. So at the end of the day, they are, if the ship goes down, they're going down with us, right? If we're all making tons of money, they're going to benefit as well. So we need to keep in mind that it's not just about getting the right people, but structuring in such a way that's going to incentivize them to work hard and do the right thing.
yeah, well said. I think everyone who wants to speak has been on stage. This can be the last call for questions. I want to thank everyone who was here. We did a previous space that you can listen to that is recorded on the Twitter account of Celsius Fact and Numbers. Be aware, this space has the name not recorded, but Ron Paul has a recording on his computer. If you do not wish that is recorded, just send him a DM. It's for his archive that he's building.
No, it will be posted. But if you don't want to be included, I will edit you out. So people will have the very essential space. They can listen to it, which already up. It's natively recorded. And then you also will have this space uploaded, but I will edit people that don't want to have their voices there, that just wanted to add their perspective here for the listeners, etc.
Yeah, good that you elaborate on that. Um, I want, yeah, and in the end, it's good. It's very nice that I have seen familiar faces, familiar voices here again. And let's remember, keep speaking out because the more we speak out, the more important it is for the board to act on it. With that, I think we can close this, Ron Paul. With because it is December, it's like the 9th of December here. I think I already want to wish everyone Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to an amazing 2025. And be strong, hold on, and don't forget to take profits in the end.